can I choose whatever identity I want? You know, we live in a culture, in a society that tells us again and again and again that it's completely up to us to construct our own identity. You know, be whichever one of 100 genders you want. Choose whatever sexuality you want. Be whoever you want, and don't let anybody else tell you that you're wrong. And we live in an age in which identity formation really is something now that everybody is engaging in and identifying as this, that and the other. And of course, in the middle of all of that, Christians are often portrayed as being oppressive and even hate-filled because we turn around and ask some questions about this. What could possibly be wrong with just being left alone or being entirely free to be whatever identity you want? Well, I want to suggest a couple of things. First thing I want to suggest is that being able to be as fluid as you like and choose whatever identity you want is a terrible recipe for ripping society apart. I would suggest that our culture right now consists of people just spread into different interest groups, different sub-communities, all of them shouting and yelling at each other. Just look at some of the arguments raging in our culture right now between the transgender community and the feminist community, just to give one example among many. Because when you tell people that your identity consists of some small aspect of your personality or something you can decide for yourself, the danger is, of course, you then start defining yourself over and against people who are different. And one of the massive crises I think we have in Western society right now is finding some basis for bringing us together and giving a basis for our common humanity rather than tearing us apart. And it was interesting, I was doing a university event at a major Scottish university a few weeks ago, and during the Q&A after the event we had a couple of questions around sexuality and gender, and afterwards this young student came up and spoke to myself and my colleague who were presenting and didn't have any kind of religious faith as far as I know, and she said it's so refreshing to hear people actually beginning to talk honestly about some of these issues in our society because everything is so divisive now on campus. She said, I love the fact that as Christians you weren't hate-filled, you weren't negative, but also you were trying to stop us all fracturing into these tiny little subgroups and warring with each other. And so I think people are desperate looking for some answers about how to pull people together rather than rip them apart. That's the first problem, I think, with some of what we're hearing on identity in our culture today. But there's a second problem. If you think that it's your job to construct your own identity through your own sheer hard work, through your own self-determination, through your social media profile or the others you identify with, if all the effort comes down to you, then that's a huge amount of work. That is a terrific pressure if you take onto your own shoulders the job of constructing your own identity and constructing an identity strong enough to carry you through of all the turbulences in life. And I think that it is no accident that right now we're seeing mental health crises, we're seeing a growth in suicide and self-harm among young adults because of the pressures that society is putting onto them. By contrast, the Christian faith offers something radically different. Jesus didn't say, hey, just choose your own identity and go and work really, really hard, and hey, I hope that works out for you. But Jesus looks at us and says, I am offering you a whole new identity. The radical claim of the Bible is that if you put your trust and your hope and your faith in Jesus, He doesn't just deal with the mess and brokenness in our lives that often causes all kinds of issues around identity, but actually He offers us a whole new identity. And one of the most wonderful promises of the New Testament is that when you put your faith in Christ, you become adopted into God's family. You become someone who is in Christ, to use the New Testament language. And the New Testament goes further and says you are now a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. And for me, one of the most rewarding and enriching things about following Jesus is I don't need to scrabble around and strive hard to construct my identity. Jesus has given me an identity, a rock-solid identity that in my 25 or more years of following Christ has sustained me through all kinds of ups and downs, and that I trust, because of Jesus, will sustain me into the future. The greatest basis for identity, I know, comes in putting our hope and our faith and our trust in Jesus.